Alright, what's going on, guys? Professor Kirk here, back with another video for you all. Today we're going to be going over the principles of exercise training. Keep in mind that these videos are broad overviews of the main concepts and ideas that you'll need to know for the course. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your professor or your graduate student. So let's get into it. The first thing that we have here is strength, right? So strength is just the maximum force that a given muscle group can produce. This is in terms of 1 RM. So for example, if I can bench press 235 twice and I say that's my max strength, I'm wrong. However, if I bump it up to 245 and I can only hit that once, that would then be my maximal strength. All right, so that's how you want to think about the concept of strength. The next concept we have, or principle we have, is power. Power is change in work divided by time. So let's say me and you can both bench 100 pounds, right? But I can bench 100 pounds in 2 seconds and you could do it in 4. I would therefore be more powerful because if we divide those numbers, my number is greater in terms of power, right? So you can use your calculator, whip that bad boy out or whatever, but I would have a greater number than you because of my power, okay? Because of my time, not my power. The next concept we have is endurance. So endurance is just the repeated muscle contractions for a specific exercise in a given capacity. So let's say if we're doing like 100, say if I want to get, my goal is to get to 100 crunches, right? I start off at 10, I'm exhausted. But then let's say I do an extra 2 every week. So next week I do 12, next week I do 14. Over time I'll build that endurance and my muscles will be able to sustain longer contractions over time. Next we have aerobic power, which is this energy created to oxidative phosphorylation. So just think about if you're a runner, right? You're running, you're taking the oxygen all the time. Your body's cycling that through the electron transport chain and it's making a bunch of ATP. Now, on the flip side, anaerobic power is the stuff that you get from glycolysis. We talked about this a few chapters ago. I believe it was chapter 2. Well, this is energy created due to the lack of oxygen. This is like the creatine phosphate system and stuff like that. The things that don't require, things that happen quickly, like in less than 10 seconds, okay? Moving on to the actual concepts or the main backbones which make exercise science what it really is. The first one is the principle of specificity. So all this is, guys, is if I'm training for something in particular, I need to do, so say if I'm training for a specific sport, I need to do things related to that sport or to that movement. If I'm doing football, I should be doing like powerlifting. If I'm doing cross country, I should be doing running every single day, whatever, right? The opposite of this principle, let's say if I'm doing football and I'm doing cardio every single day, like running 6-7 miles, that's not going to help me get any better at my sport or perform at a higher capacity. That's why this principle of specificity is very important in regards to what it is that you're training for. You need to make sure the movements and the exercises and whatever else are as close to that actual sport as possible. The next one is principle of versatility. This is essentially if you don't use it, you lose it. So if I'm working out hard 3 or 4 days a week for 6 months and then I just stop after that 6 months for another 6 months, I'm going to lose everything that I gained. That's all it is, principle of reversibility. The next one is principle of progressive overload. This basically states that over time you need to challenge your muscles. So let's say if I'm doing 20 push-ups, say I'm doing 20 push-ups every week. No, let's say I'm doing 20 push-ups every day, right? If I want to get stronger, I have to change up the numbers. I need to increase that number. I need to make it like 25 every day. And then over time, I'll make it 30 every day type of thing. That's how you have to, that's the principle of progressive overload. You have to constantly challenge yourself in order to see improvements in your muscle gains. The last principle is the principle of variation, periodization. And this is just systematically changes, and this is just, it systematically changes one or more variables to keep training challenging. So this can be volume, I guess how often you, how often you go to the gym or how many exercises you do and such, or it can be intensity, how hard you're going. Are you going really hard? Are you going medium? Or are you going low? Type of thing. That's all this principle states. You have to vary either the volume, the intensity, or the mode through which you perform these exercises. Getting into the different types of training. First thing we have is resistance training. Right down here. Let me slide this up. Okay. Resistance training. So with resistance training, there are 3 things that you really want to know. You're going to want to know the concentric movements, which are the flexion or the decreasing of an angle, however you learned it in your previous courses. And you also have eccentric, which is over here. So eccentric is the extension or the increasing of an angle. I'm going to show a video here real quick to show you guys what that is, right? So if we have, pull out my phone, pull up this guy doing a bicep curl. Let me put it in slower motion. Okay. Turn the volume way down. Alright. So you see how he's curling upwards right now? He is in concentric motion. That, my friends, is concentric motion. However, when he goes, when he comes up, that's concentric. He's decreasing the angle. Now he's doing eccentric. He's going away. He's making the angle longer. So that's all you really need to know about the difference between concentric and eccentric motions. Now, our aspects of resistance training. Then we have isometric, which is just a rehabilitation focus. So isometric exercises focus on contracting the muscle without moving it across any joint. So imagine if I want to flex, if I want to get my arm stronger, but I can't move it because I broke my elbow or something like that. I can literally just squeeze my arm without having to move or lift any weights or put any efforts into using any machines or anything like that. I can just squeeze it. And the concept is through squeezing and activating those muscle fibers, you're able to, over time, you're able to see some growth in your muscle gains and such. Next, we have the dynamic eccentric, emphasis of training. So this places emphasis on the eccentric portion. Basically, if I'm doing a bicep curl or whatever, let's say if I'm doing a bicep curl, this is concentric, eccentric, concentric, eccentric. If I'm placing more emphasis on that eccentric motion, the research suggests that you'll be able to stimulate more muscle fibers over time, and therefore increasing your muscle mass and power as a result. The next concept we have is variable and resistance training, which is this looks at resistance training in its lowest. It focuses resistance on the portions which you are strongest, and it reduces resistance in the portions which you are weakest. You'll see this a lot if you go to the gym and such. There's some machines that really focus on this. There's none that I can think of that come to mind right now, but that's the main thing that you'll want to know for variable resistance training. The next we have is isokinetic type of training. This is purely, the main thing you want to know is this is done under a constant speed. So contraction at all points in range of motion. And this can rely on using water, like hydraulic type weights, or using air resistance, or even magnetic weights. I don't know, that's something new that I saw online. There are some gyms out there now that use magnets as a form of training, which is very interesting. I've yet to use that. But that's isokinetic. Everything's done under a constant speed. The next one we have is plyometrics. This focuses on utilizing the muscle stretch reflex. Essentially, you see a lot of people who play basketball, when they want to dunk, they activate this reflex all the time. So before you move a muscle, there's this thing called the stretch reflex that happens. And basically your muscles how would I say it? Essentially, I'm trying to figure out how to say it without using a diagram. They would, come apart, like they're about to do a contraction real quick before you're about to do a movement. So before I'm about to jump to do a dunk, they go whoo hoo. Like that's essentially what would happen, and that would activate that. So with plyometrics, the main things that work this are any type of jumping movement. I mean any type of jumping, whether it's box jumps or single leg lunge jumps, anything of that nature. Last but not least is electrical stimulation, and this more so focuses on the rehabilitation aspect of athletics. This isn't really used for training. However, it can force contraction of muscles, which helps with the retention of muscle mass gain. So let's say if I've been training really long and I get injured, like I injured my shoulder, and I've been working really hard on getting my shoulder really strong, right? This electrical stimulation, what will happen is they'll put pads on your shoulder, and the electrical impulses will activate the nerve fibers within that muscle and make them contract on their own, type of thing. So you won't have to do this voluntarily. So the current passes through the muscle fiber or through the motor nerve. That part isn't really understood, but that's moreover how it works. That's all for the first part of this video. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I hope that was helpful.